again, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Melissa and this is So Biased. In this video, I'm going to be making the princess coat from Charm Patterns. In my last video, I did a mock-up and fitting, and with that, I did a bunch of pattern adjustments and fit adjustments and made it fit for my size. I made a bunch of mistakes in the fit, as you will see, and I ended up with a really beautiful coat. I'm so excited for you to see this. It was a heck of a process. It took me almost a month and a half to finish the whole thing, and the results are beautiful. Huge thanks to Charm Patterns. They are not sponsoring this, but their patterns are amazing and I'm a huge fan already, so consider me a customer for life. So let's get on with the sewing. Gotta get the tea going. That is important. Tea and ham. Now we are actually going to take a crack at the jacket. I started off by separating my interfacing pattern pieces from my lining pattern pieces, and I'm going to start by cutting them out before I get to the main fashion fabric. For this project, guys, this is my first time ever. I'm not using fusible interfacing. I'm using sew-in interfacing. Look how stiff it is. Oh, it has so much structure. I've also been studying on how to use interfacing. I couldn't get horsehair canvas. I don't know how. Don't know where you get it, but if you do know, please leave me a comment. So I've been learning about pad stitching and about how certain pieces need to be cut on the bias. So I'm going to start by cutting out all the interfacing pieces, and then I'm going to cut out all the lining pieces. And that will take approximately forever. Look at the lining. Isn't this pretty? I found this in the store. They had plain linings, but I had to get this because look at the pretty, look at the little flowers. Oh. So that is all of the lining and all the interfacing twice. And now it's time for the main event. The main fabric. This is 100% wool. Probably weighs about 10 pounds. I think there's 8 yards of it. And now I just have to put all the pieces out for this and cut all of the pieces out. So the wool has all been pre-washed, which is a really good thing because it was not color fast. So I ended up having to do 2 washes with 2 rinses each before the rinse water stopped coming out blue. So this is the first princess seam on the front bust of the bodice, and you can see just how curvy it is and how I've had to pin it using like all my pins on a curve because there is a gap, but as soon as you as soon as you curve it over, that gap smooths out a lot. So I had to keep it curved the whole time I was pinning it in order to get it to meet up with all of the points. But it looks really good once it's sewn because I sewed the other side, and you can see just how nice of a bust curve this has already, just from going around that really, really tight seam and making sure you keep the curve the whole way through. So Yay! All right, so we have the black is the interfacing for the collar stand. That's the part that touches your neck. And then this is the rest of the collar. So this will fold over like this. And then there'll be another piece that goes over top. So we have interfacing and then this interfacing on top to make the stand a little stiffer. And I am going to attempt pad stitching, which is using hand stitching to introduce more structure and shape. So we want this is going to go over the shoulder, so we want this to curve nicely over the shoulder, and so the stitching will help it hold that shape without me having to, hold it up like this. So the pad stitching is all done. Literally, it's three days later, guys, like 3 days. So the collar, okay, please don't at me. It's not beautiful, but it's beautiful to me because it's my first time. And then we have the collar stand, which is also pad stitched. I know it's blue on black, but you can hopefully see it. Okay, here. And then you just press it down. And seriously, look how nicely it just lays there. With the pad stitching, I cannot make it lay flat. Also, gratuitous puppy shot. Mina, who's a good girl? No, I sleep. But so that is the front bodice. Also, I'm sorry, I'm just having a minute with these bust seams. They're so pretty. Okay, so now is the back of the bodice. And the same thing with the back. You're going to sew together the center back, the kind of yoke piece here. And then these side pieces, again, because I am a curvy girl, they will just lay like this. And you have to kind of pin them where they're curving in, because you can see I can't really lay it flat. It really wants to just sit up. It wants to be curved. And so use a lot of pins, leave it on the curve. Same thing, you can see it on this side too. As soon as I turn it over, it just curls right up. And sew it all down, and then you will automatically get that really nice curve to it, which, yay! So the front bodice is done, and the back bodice is done, and now it is time to sew them together. So, God, this is a weird looking piece. Okay, so you have the front bodice here, and more of Coco vid in the background. So, and then you have the collar, and then the collar, the bottom of the collar stand, it's hard to see, bottom of the collar stand attaches to the back. This doesn't have a neck hole because it's a coat, so it's open at the front. So you attach the shoulders together, one shoulder, two shoulder, and then the back of the yoke to the back of the collar. And then this is going to be an interesting one to sew just because look at how thick that is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see if my sewing machine is going to eat all these layers of fabric, because this is a lot. So next up are the sleeves, and this is a super unusual sleeve. So it's a top and a bottom sleeve. So this is, so yeah, it ends up folding in half with the seams on the side. So it has kind of like a front and a back, but the sleeve is split into a top and a bottom. And so it sews up a little weirdly, and you can probably see here that the top is a little smaller than the bottom. So when I pin it together, there's this gap. I'm not sure why that is. I I know that setting these sleeves is really, really hard. But yeah, so next up we will sew the sleeves together. Okay, you guys, a miracle just happened. I set the sleeve. Oh, on the first attempt. I set it. Like, oh my God, this sleeve has been the bane of my existence. And look at how pretty they match. Like, I can't believe I did this. I set a sleeve correctly the first time. Because this sleeve, okay. So in addition to having that front part and that back part, setting this sleeve is super weird because the seams don't match. You have like, you know, a marking that matches a seam, and then you'll have like another marking, you probably can't see that there, little marking that matches a different seam, and then you only have this one spot that I showed you where two seams meet each other. So it also says to do gathering at the top here. I did not need that. It fit perfectly as is. I don't know if it's just this fabric, but no gathering is fine. Also, more cute puppy tags. She's waiting for Dad to come home. Mina, who's a good girl. Keep watching. So next up is the skirt. I'm not going to show you a bunch of sewing stuff because it's just sewing straight seams. So you have the front skirt in 2 panels, times 2. So it's obviously not closed in the front because jacket. So I assume it'll be hemmed at some point. And then the pockets. So 2 of these. So 2 on the front left, 2 on the front right. And then we have the back portion, which is 4 panels. So 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, and then pockets at each end, and then seams will be pressed open, and then pocket seams are, yeah, they are ironed as well, but they're ironed towards the pocket so that when we sew it together, it'll make an easy line for us to sew into the pocket. First draft is done. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see, so my natural waist is really high despite being tall. So the skirt falls a little lower than I want. So I got help to draw this line where my waist actually falls on both sides, and I'm going to readjust the skirt length. And I'm going to bring the skirt up so it actually meets there, and then I will tailor the waist a little bit so we get a really nice fit. But look how pretty. Swishy skirt. Okay, more and on. Okay, so I just took the skirt off, and this is the part where you can all make fun of me. So remember the 3 inches of extra space I added? That's what, 4.5 inches or more, I think, of space I'm taking off of the bottom of the bodice because my waist is so high. I'm like, oh, I'm tall. No, actually, my waist is like ridiculously high. Why do I do this? Also, hello, Rachel. You are wonderful. Love you. So this is the difference that tailoring makes. Oh my God. So I got the skirt at the right height, and then I noticed it was still a little bit wide. And so I started taking in just a little bit from each of the seams, except for the back seam, but every seam I took in just a little bit. And now look how nicely that fits. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so, so happy. And it makes everything just sit so flat and nice. Look at that. Oh, I love it already. Yay! Also, do not make a wool coat in August. I'm sweating. What was I thinking? This is dumb. So here you can see, or hopefully you can see, the tailoring that I did. So I just took, I just started with basting. I'm going to sew all these in properly next. But basted in a little bit at each of the seams. Just took about like an inch or so off at every seam. And that overall, it makes a really, really nice one. And then I'm going to clip the extra, and then I am going to iron all of the seams down. And then I think we're onto the liner. This piece, this is the next step that I have. This one's weird. I'm not really sure how this is going to work. There may be swearing involved. So this is the front of the collar, and then it's basically going to be a binding, and it goes all the way down and then matches up with, I'm sorry, I haven't sewed the interfacing on, don't judge me, the binding for the bottom of the coat, which is this huge strip of craziness, and then sewn on. It makes sense in my head, so just go with me. I'm going to start pinning, and we'll see if it all matches up. For the lining, it's basically the same. I'll do this. We're going to do the same thing we did with the bodice. They're basically the same pieces. So we have our front bodice with the princess seam and the side times 2, and then we have our back yoke with the princess seams times 2. The only difference is in the back yoke there's a dart in the top and the bottom that have to be sewn. I assume that's just to take up some of the sizing from it being concave versus convex. And then we sew shoulder seams together. Yes, it's more Coco Vid. Don't judge me. More shoulder seams together, side seams together. Then we're going to sew the sleeves together, and then we're going to set the sleeves. And that's the bodice. It's pretty much the same as the main jacket. So I'm still ironing seams. While I'm on that note, don't forget to adjust the heat of your iron because this is a synthetic liner. I wanted something really, really thin because the wool is so heavy. But while I've been doing that, I'm sorry, you need to look at this cute. Mina, are you being cute? Aww. Mandatory cute tax. Okay, back to pressing. Now that I have the lining laid out, you can kind of see what I was talking about with the layout of these arms. That is it just laid flat. You can see how it doesn't match there and it doesn't match there. So in order to make it fit, it needs to come across here and then come across here. So it's this kind of asymmetrical arm shape. It works, but you can see what I mean about how the layout is super weird. Okay, gonna sew them together and set them into the bodice lining. Let's do this. The next step, makes sense, is sewing the bodice lining to the skirt lining. But again, because I added all that extra ease, I have to now take it all out. The way I did this is I took the side seam of a bodice and I matched this notch here to the notch in the main fabric and then lined it up to the waist, and so I had that much extra. Then we will start the lengthy process of inserting the lining, and then this is it. It's a final countdown. I'll probably get demonetized for that. I have pinned the entire lining to the entire jacket. I am almost out of pins. Lining is turned inside out, so it's right side to right side. And then it is pinned to the entire length of the jacket. It doesn't pin at the bottom, so that is left open. Because we're going to turn that inside out and then we're going to hand sew it to the bottom lining. But that's just about it. So we're going to sew this ridiculously massive seam. Yes. And then we will kind of have a coat. Ugh. I'm filming this next bit with my phone. Please forgive the terrible light and focus. So the lining has been sewn on everywhere. And then the bottom of the lining has to be, can you see it? Hand stitched on. So I just use a slip stitch. Tried to use really dainty stitches. This has taken approximately forever because this skirt is huge, and so I've been slip stitching for like literally 3 days. Also inside of the cuffs, slip stitching the lining to the main fabric, and then I'm going to do a back stitch along the waist. So connecting the waist in between the lining and the jacket, I'm just going to do a back stitch so it stays in place. Otherwise you get this baggy lining thing happening, which I don't want. So yeah, I'm going to watch a lot of YouTube and do a lot more hand. Don't please ignore my fabric stash. There's lots of masks in there because wear your masks. It's important.
I don't wanna set the world on fire. No, no. I just wanna start a flame in your heart that never will part. In my heart I have but one desire, oh my, and that one is you. No other will do.
So that's the finished jacket. As you can see, it turned out beautifully. It's finally October and I got to actually try it out for the first time in cold weather because it was cold enough to wear it. And it was so warm. It was so comfortable. I thought the wool might be itchy and it wasn't. And I got so many compliments on it. Everybody stopped me. They're like, where did you get that coat? I'm like, I made it myself. It's fine. I also found out that Charm Patterns has a hoodie version on their Patreon. So if you go support them, which I might go do, you can get the hoodie pattern. And since I live in Vancouver and it rains all the time, I think I definitely need a hoodie waterproof version now for the wet weather. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to this channel, which you probably are because this is the second video, please say hello in the comments. Please introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you and see what your projects are. If you're a new costumer, if you're a longtime costumer, please tell me what you're working on. Please say hi. I'd love to make more costuming friends and get to know everybody who's subscribing. My next video is going to be my Halloween costume. I am so excited. I just got the last piece for it today and I'm just going to be sewing the last little bits of it, but it should be out next week. Please stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. Please comment if you enjoy the videos, and I hope to see you soon, and stay happy and healthy and have a wonderful day. Oh, kerfluff. I got fluff on my boobs. Gotta sneeze. Excuse me.